Hello, welcome to the channel. I'm Zach Markowski with Sharper Pen Image Consulting. I'm doing something slightly different today due to technical difficulties, namely that my computer died and I was in the middle of editing two different projects. One on standards and values, of which I'll front load now to say that the whole point of standards, of values, of something like appearance, behavior, and communication is the point of these things is to set standards and to maintain standards and then to further refine and elevate standards, right? There's a reason we don't lower standards. So that was video one. And the other video, which was also recorded on the 4th of July, so at this point, not only am I behind in my work, but I lost hours over the course of over a week of work on these videos. But it was important enough of a matter that I wanted to, get it out there, because I know that YouTube doesn't work like an art gallery, and no social media is really designed, and not in much of a fashion. Like, I guess this is kind of the whole point, is that what I was working on was a follow-up on image and acting, including why is acting necessary for survival, especially in a country like America, because you go look at people's appearance, behaviors, and communications. Why are they the way they are? Why are so many people inauthentic and living inauthentic lives? And why are so many people angry and mentally ill, right? There's a lot of problems here. And when I start really probing into the nature of our culture and the way it's been constructed, you have millions and millions of people whose lives have been constructed to be as much the same and similar and follow the same patterns and the same non-existent leadership and consumption patterns according to, how they're advertised to, how they're instructed and schooled to be consumers, right? There's a reason why Americans are the way they are. There's a reason why our culture is an anti-intellectual, it's just hostile to everyone and everything, really, because that's kind of the nature of what the factory farm organized education system was designed to do. It wasn't meant to make scientists and thinkers and philosophers and intelligent people, and the few people who do kind of eke it out on that front, they only have so many options between corporation and state in which to make their money, because they're overseen and they're regulated, and everyone is subject to various laws and rules. And so in this video on image and acting, it gets into, why do Americans why do we value fiction so much? Because before people were obsessed with image and acting on social media, we had a TV culture where people would spend inordinate amounts of daily life watching TV, and now it's just moved to internet. So it hasn't changed, but the parasocial bonds creates the illusion of some sort of community or connection where it's otherwise lacking, because everyone's putting on a production for survival. Everyone's, wired into their own trip. Everyone has their own little circle of things and people, and there's might as well be no world outside of that. So to the degrees that America is several circles that overlap and yet never meet or touch, and to the degrees that people's lives are very much organized like this, and I mean, it's hard not to say it or see it like this, but that the corporation state has completely gutted the family and our organizational structures, and even the means to produce, even everything about like life and work, it's just gutted it. And when you see that it was designed to be a factory farm, a reproductive or repetitive imitative process, we have absentee leadership imitating real leadership, and then we have people acting in all sorts of roles and functions that they don't want to do or want to be, so they're stuck living inauthentic lives. And a lot of this is, fueled by and with hatred, and you can see it in a lot of the mental illness and a lot of the problems in our society. Like, there's a reason why our society is, for being the most powerful and wealthy society in the world, what that pressure does to people is it drives them insane easily, and there's this idea that you could say that Oh, and I want to be clear here. My critique is temporary. I'm passing through these things. I see that there's a lot of content and channels that, the whole point is to play in the trash. The whole point is to open the circle to more trash. The whole point is, to, just how can we gamify this trash, versus I'm looking at a serious critique of our culture, of our people, of our allowed, and the way the bars have continually been attacked and lowered when it comes to what we consider as acceptable appearance, behavior, and communication. Now, there is something to allowing for different modes of being, because this is what I mean about with people being different. The idea that you can feed everyone methamphetamine or Xanax to get them to fit into some sort of insane corporate model that just doesn't match human reality, that guts human reality, because you can see that Americans are really sensitive about everything, which is why everyone lies about everything, from the government, which, by the way, if you don't know where it's at, things look very much like 2008. This is also what I wanted to say, is things don't look good there. And when everyone lies about the numbers, in our organizations and our groups and our individuals and our collectives, when everyone lies about the numbers, and then when they lie about who and what they are, and when people lie about who they feel or how they feel, it really shows you the depth of the pathology, because the repression comes with a cost. The dehumanization of people comes with a cost. The ostracization, and basically, if you could look at America, to speak crudely and psychologically and animalistically, if you could look at America like a bunch of different, people and cultures in one, it's like having a jar of a bunch of different colored ants. And you could say that the people who primarily organize and own society, it's like 0.1 to 3%. We're talking in the past, this would have been your Rockefellers and your, the godfather of propaganda, Bernays, the people who are like, yeah, we want a model consumer, which, by the way, I think peaked with the boomer, right? Like the boomer basically was the perfect corporately modeled American, and they don't even see that their whole system and what they supposedly work for has been gutted and sold out. And whatever ladders that they easily had, what they could easily take for granted in their time and place, like anyone, right? Because these generations, these people, this is the difference between me and others. I don't think the average American is to blame. I don't even think the voters to blame, because the voters stuck in a catch-22, right? Oh, the party is the keeper of democracy, but they don't even believe in democracy, right? Everyone's so cynical. Everyone's so like, I don't blame voters. I don't blame Americans. I definitely don't blame the average American. Yes, I may speak harshly of standards and values, but that's because if we don't actually have any means to value humanity in a degrading environment where the corporation state has gutted and sold out human meaning, and then where absent encourages people to do so, because this goes back to my initial statements on social media, like, putting out work or more serious work on social media is difficult because, and this is always the issue with higher art, right? And it's self-chosen, like, it's not a complaint, right? Even things crapping out and being set back by a week now, and having these other problems that I have to deal with as a business owner. Like, I wish I could find people that I could trust to hire. I wish I could find people to trust to work with. I wish I could, there's a lot of things I could say about how business and people are in America, and that it's always been a hostile environment. The barriers to entry have always been high. Society is not set up to individuals and groups, but they sold you out to believe that it was, right? So now that everyone's alone and isolated, you're much easier to sell to because you're so afraid, right? Because you're lacking a family, you're lacking connections, you're lacking a network. This is power. More than money is network and people. People are the power. Why do you think the system works so well, devaluing people's labor for cheap to then consolidate the value of that wealth, right? Like, this is the way it's long been. And Americans have been sold so many lies, and this is my critique, right? That you lie, and then you lie about who you are and how you feel and what you're really up to and what you really think, and everyone tries to hide behind, basically, for living in a post-virtue, cynical society. Like, everyone still wants to put forth the good image, and everyone still wants to be seen as moral and just, and you can see this in all politics and all image and acting, in politics, in our acting, in our society, in our people, in our social media. And that's why in between it all, you see people going, what the hell is going on? Yeah, I don't even want to say it, due to, people not even knowing where it comes from, not the matrix, but getting into that red pill, blue pill, purple pill territory. All this stuff exists for a reason. And, the game of pretend is increasingly over as, people see it for themselves, right? Because then they can no longer fool themselves. At least a certain amount of people are going to fall through the cracks. They are going to want to go their own way. They are going to want to escape, right? And this is, again, when I point out that men of value seek to do their own thing and they would create their own thing, it's generally, it's not to be different, to go against the grain. It's always it's always seen as disruptive. And then people, even when they want to give you credit, it's to put you aside. It's to say, oh yeah, good work over there, now shut up. It's inconvenient. You're getting in the way of business. The disease is the business model. Oh, this quoting a congressman, mind you, right? He said America is basically, he used to joke that America's an insurance company with an army. And he says now it's a very broke insurance company with an army. So, it's when your own government speaks of itself so cynically, you begin to go, what the hell's wrong? And then you look at his numbers and he says, look, 25% of the government is discretionary spending, right? That means the government is already locked in. It's already got in the machine. It already runs itself, right? It's already on its way to running itself. And the people who own the place, like, their business models won't be disrupted. They do everything in their power to keep that from happening. This is why small business, private business has been gutted. This is why competition gets gutted and heads get placed on pikes. It's been no different for individuals and the feudal systems that came before, and now getting into the corporation state and the way it's basically a feudal model. Oh, and something else I got into, I don't think people like, is basically, I think, with selling out men and devaluing men's labor and then having to share that and split that cost between women, I think American women are largely owned by the state now. And I know that might seem harsh and people might freak out to some degree, but look at it like this. If women are the majority of people going to school, getting student debt and ever more student debt, and it's non-bankruptable government loans locked in at a low rate, sure, but you have to pay and you can't bankrupt on it. Yet the corporation state is who has all the jobs, and it's the number one employer of a lot of women and people, right? The state itself, and also its corporations who have to answer to it, where it gets most of its tax money, or some of its tax money, because most Americans are broke. Most Americans don't have any money. Most Americans' net worth is zero. There's a lot of people who have negative, right? I could go on and on as to the problems in here and why the math doesn't add up. The point isn't to complain. The point isn't to say, look at this cancer. Let's just talk about the cancer. Let's make jokes about the cancer. Let's be hopeless and cynical and ironic. No, that's all tyranny, right? And that's why it's so demoralizing. That's why it's so easily upsetting to people. This is why you can see a lot of this in our culture and our politics. But getting back to a point here before I get lost, because I think I already did, and that's okay too. I was mainly just talking about how people and their lives have been thoroughly robbed and devalued, with technology. Kids are increasingly robbed of any kind of childhood and creativity and imagination therein, because they're quickly beholden to image and acting in the corporation state and the way this is all projected. The gratuitous sex and violence in media, by the way, that no man actually asked for, because right, we were all born into this. Everyone alive today was born into these systems, and they figured out how to capitalize on them, and that's what everyone does. I keep talking about this as an image consultant. Like, if you can imagine a person is born a certain way, then they have certain assets and certain debits, and then they're going to further work with what they have and what they don't have to further round out themselves, their lives, their personality. That's the whole thing about using tools and weapons and all sorts of things, is it's an augmentation of power. All of humanity has been an augmentation of power, of our natural inherent power, the value we're born with as thinking sentient beings. But what the corporation state has done has robbed people of their rootedness, their relatedness, how they can relate to each other, how they've been trained and conditioned to relate to each other. Because I could put it like this, like, a lot of Americans peak, in a certain sense, and this is done to them in part, but I think they're kind of trained to peak in high school and college, right? There's nothing outside these pre-existing, prefabricated models, right? This is why it's so hard for a lot of people. It's not that they're born in the wrong time and place, they're born into the wrong class, or they have the benefits of their genetics, but they're born into a pathological family, or a family that's decaying and on decline. Was this... Shoot, I don't even think the mics were on, but I'm hoping I'm projecting enough. Anyway, So, get to the end of a long talk like this, and I think my messaging and my ideas here are kind of clear. I know I've marketed my channel as image consulting, marketing, unparalleled style, and literature and art. And I'm kind of pointing out where our culture convenes on all these matters, because it's things that we as individuals and groups value, right? Image and acting, power and wealth, that our system generates, but only, only in specific ways. And it's the lie and the illusion is that it was ever easier than it was, that it was ever simple, that it was ever easy for men to do these things, when in reality it's hard. Like I was saying earlier, that I kind of got sidetracked on, that society is not engineered to help or guide individuals. It's designed to largely take from them, to put them in places, to see them where they can fit into the prefabricated model. And what you can see is a lot of people rebel against the model. And yeah, there's a lot of people who just want a normal, quote unquote normal, what was normal American life, what they see as normal American life. And a lot of them don't realize that was a place and time, and that time is gone. Now it's almost impossible for the average person to even have a family. The most basic unit of human construction and creation, creativity, the act of creating something bigger, better, more important than yourself. The average American has been robbed of that, because it's otherwise such a hectic and hard experience to survive here for the average person. Right? It takes a lot of, never mind, not even the average person, the artist has a hard time, because okay, I guess you could put it like this. Wealthy people, they don't manage finances. They don't waste time with money. They have teams to do it for them, right? Other people, they don't do their marketing. They have image consulting and PR and other marketers to do it for them, right? You got to understand, it's, specialization further empowers people, but it's also delegation of responsibility. So my bigger critique of the corporate model here is that it's been infinite deferral and delegation, with infinite devaluing, with no one to be responsible, with no leadership, with no, and I've talked about this endlessly, but I recognize it's not easy or apparent to people, and I don't hold that against them. I know I talk about, only those who have the potential, who might, you could maybe say, willfully turn away. Only those people might I hold responsible. But even then, they are who they are what they are. See, my take is different. I don't think people can be different other than what they are. Anyway, I've said enough. Zach Morkowski, Sharper Pen Image Consulting. If you need help improving your appearance, behavior, your communication, your ability to, you want to learn how to network, how to meet people, how to work with people, you want to open yourself up to both critique and learning, and learning the crucial and vital skills of appearance, behavior, and communication when it comes to reading, writing, working with others, all these, marketing, sales, you name it, contact me, reach out. I have a website, I have email, you can comment here, it doesn't matter. There's lots of ways to get a hold of me. I'm around. I'm going to try and get the computer situation fixed, up and running. I don't know how long, it's all painful, it's all time, it's all money. It's just me here working largely. Like, my cameraman's not even with me today. I only have so many people that can help me with so many things. So it's just a lot of work. And for, it's that way for the average person, and it's like that for the driven person. And everything in our society has made it harder for us to trust each other, to work with each other. And these are the kinds of things that I'm critiquing, and that I'm actively working to combat. To say, what are the common values? What are the important human values? If our culture has been robbed and devalued and sold out, what's left for people? Anyways, take care. Thanks for listening. If you're my audience, if I've brought something to your mind that you've thought of, but you've never, for people who are new, and this is new to you, and I've told you, and I've helped you realize something you kind of knew, but you didn't know because you never really thought about it, or you hadn't put 2 + 2 together to recognize that none of the math here adds up, like I'm saying, right? Image and acting, numbers and budgets, corporation and state, people and what they say, what they want, and how they actually behave and pretend, and the inauthenticity of the average American life, the authenticity of the average American character and actor, a nation of poor people trained to pretend like they have a path to wealth, things like that. Anyway, it's in passing. We will move on to whatever comes next, because no matter what happens, the people are still here, and there's no overleaping that. There's no changing who and what already exists. We have to work with who we are, where we are, and what we are. Anyways, I look forward to working with you. So give me a call, drop me a line. Take care, like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. If you like the channel and you want to support it, support me. That's what you're doing. You're supporting me. So thank you for that. And I appreciate it. Have a good day.